Today I'm going to talk about art. Well, art books anyway. Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to my video in which I'm going to make some suggestions for the Framed in September Read-Along month. This Framed in September event is hosted by Heather Gregg at Heather Gregg Reads, I believe is the name of her channel. Hannah at Hannah's Books, Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, and Lindy at Lindy's Magpie Reads. I'll leave links to all their channels below and hopefully to each one of their announcement videos down below so you can follow those great channels and see what they have to say about the event. I like the event. I'm going to try to do some reading for the event, but at the very least I'm going to make some suggestions here about books you can read, and maybe, you know, if everything works out, I can go to some of the museums here in Houston and, you know, take some footage there and make a little vlog video about that as well. But I do plan on reading at least one book about art. By the way, if you notice, the still frame that is the part of my thumbnail for this movie is from, or for this video, is from the movie The Modern, starring Keith Carradine and Lindy Fiorentino and Wallace Shawn, and let's see, who else is in that? Well, those are kind of the, John Lone is in there, main actors, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it really is set during the 1920s and among the expatriate community in France, and it actually shows Keith Carradine as a working artist, and it has to do with the value of art. It's a really good movie. If you've never seen The Moderns, you know, it might be kind of hard to find, but if you do find it, I think it'd be worth your while. So here we go. Here are the books that I'm suggesting as, you know, possible things you might want to read. These are books that either are directly about art or have, in the case of the works of fiction, have art somehow at their center or artist as character. So probably the most obvious book on the list would be one I've seen already before, and that's Thunderclap, a memoir of art and life and sudden death by Laura Cumming. This really takes a look at Dutch art, Fabricius and Rembrandt and others, and it explains a lot about what Dutch art is about. And I found this book to be really appealing. Number one, because it taught me things about artists like Fabricius that I didn't know. It also taught me things about why the Dutch painted the things they painted and why their paintings are the way they are, which I thought was really interesting. I'll be honest with you, Dutch masters are not artists I necessarily look to as some of my favorites, but you know, the book was really, really good. It was nominated, or it was on the long list for the Women's Prize for Nonfiction this year, and I think it would have been a very worthy winner. And it's a very good book, worth reading. The second book on my list is Wild Designs, Nature's Architects by Kimberly Ridley. Now, this book is a little bit unusual. It basically talks about how nature designs structures of creatures and all kinds of things like that. And my favorite thing about it, the reason it's on this list, is because it has all these drawings of natural structures that exist in terms of you know, crystals and plants, and really each one of these illustrations is actually a drawing, is actually a work of art itself, and the book is made up primarily of those. And I just found it to be really fascinating, the level of detail achieved in these works of art. I thought was really just miraculous. And so I'm going to count this as a book about art, even though it's about wild design, but it's about how nature created these things. But also to celebration about human beings took the time and the care to draw and replicate these things in drawings and paintings. I think the book is just great. By the way, it's also will qualify easily for Shorty September, way less than 200 pages, and there are more pictures than text. Also this year I got to read, or I read for March, Ninth Street Women, Lee Krasner, Elaine de Kooning, Grace Hardigan, Joan Mitchell, and Helen Frankenthaler, five painters in the movement that changed modern art. This is about the women of the abstract expressionist movement. It's by the way, by Mary Gabriel, and abstract expressionism is some of my favorite art. I did a research project on it when I was in graduate school, and you know, probably typical for a man, my research focused primarily on the male painters of the abstract expressionist movement and not the female painters. But there are great works of art here. There are great artists here, and it is a great in-depth look at how these women shaped the abstract expressionist movement. You know, not just in the case of Lee Krasner and Elaine de Kooning, their husbands, but these women themselves, and how their art is as important and as miraculous as any in terms of the abstract expressionist movement. I do also have a book about the abstract expressionist movement, which focuses on the male artist, and that is The Turning Point, The Abstract Expressionists and the Transformation of American Art by April Kingsley. This goes through basically the big male artists I think you would expect: de Kooning, Rothko, Klein, Motherwell, Pollock. Who am I forgetting? Anyway, it goes through the major abstract expressionist painters, and it tells the story of how they created and what they created and how the movement went. So those first 4 books of these 11 books about art are all works of nonfiction. The next 7 books are all works of fiction, which in some way focus on art, artists, or things like that. The first one I mentioned is a book that I've praised many times on my channel, and that's Lot by Shola von Reinhold. This book is basically takes up with a character named Matilda, who is kind of a con artist in lots of ways, cons her way into all kinds of things, and she manages to con her way into an art school in, I can't remember if it's in Belgium or the Netherlands, sorry, where she gets involved in this art school and trying to create this portfolio, but it also involves her growing fascination, maybe obsession, with a black figure of kind of the bright young things movement of the late 19th, early 20th century and 1920s, and kind of her role and her kind of centering part of an artistic movement. I thought it was really, really good. It's got a little bit of dark academia in it. It's got a little bit of perhaps magical realism. It's a little bit weird. Definitely, I think, worth reading. One of my favorite books of last year was Collected Works by Lydia Sandgren. This book basically involves primarily 3 characters, 2 of whom are married, and then the male character's best friend. Sorry, I'm short on names. Names rarely stick in my head. But the best friend male character in this book is an artist. And this book kind of explores, to a certain extent, what artists do, how art is created, how life can get in the way, how some people would rather kind of pose at being artists than take the risk of being artists, taking the risk to have the life you want, even though in this case the female character, the wife character, isn't an artist herself, but how she inspires art. And just a really, really great book, well worth a read. Also a book, I think, with art at its center, I'll take some of these sticky notes out, is The Colony by Audrey McGee. This was longlisted for the Booker Prize a couple of years ago now. And this basically takes place on an island off the coast of Ireland. It's set in the 1970s, and primarily it involves this group of people who live on this island, and they speak only Irish Gaelic, and kind of, what their society is like. An Englishman comes, and he's coming there to paint. He finds quickly a rival in a Frenchman there who is there to study language. They have a kind of rivalry over probably the most important female character in the book, a character I really like, and I mentioned in my Badass Women Characters video. But the painter paints the landscape, and he ends up painting Merid as well. And so art is at the center of this book in really profound ways. Another book I have on my list, and this is the only one that doesn't, I think, involve painting, yes, is Cross Stitch by Yasmina Barrera. This book looks at 3 friends and their relationship with one another, but what ties them together, what weaves them together, what knits them together, what stitches them together is their love of cross stitch and embroidery and things like that. And so that art is at the center of this book, and between the sections there are little factoids or little fact paragraphs about weaving and cross stitch and embroidery, and how that particular art form has been important as a means of expression and communication among women, even at time periods in which that was not really supported. The next 3 books I have on my list are classics that involve art or artists, and all 3 are French. The first is The Masterpiece, sometimes it's called His Masterpiece, by Émile Zola. This looks at the French art world in really in depth, in the salon, and how difficult it is to get your paintings in there. And it centers around 3 characters. One who's a writer, the main one who's a writer, and then a character who's a painter. Zola knew Paul Cézanne, and so Cézanne is the model for the painter in this book, and his difficulties and his struggles and his determination to do something different, which, you know, makes it more difficult for him to get into salons and to be successful. But this issue of painting and artist models and artists, the center of this book, and it really is, I think, a really great look at the art world of late 19th century France. Along the same lines, I have The Unknown Masterpiece, which is a short work, would also qualify for Shorty September. It's only about 44 pages long. This involves a story of a painter and collectors and obsession and you know, becoming obsessed with art or becoming obsessed with the woman who's the model of a work of art. It kind of actually mirrors the life of, or a story about the artist Poussin, who is a French artist, and just really, really good. There's another story in this bind-up that isn't nearly as good. It's called Gambara, but Unknown Masterpiece is good. And then one of my absolute favorite Balzac novels is The Black Sheep, which is a story of two French brothers from the countryside, one of whom is a womanizer and a gambler, and who puts his family constantly in risk or in debt or in problems, and the other brother is a burgeoning artist who's working to get into art school and is using his art to support his mother and his family, while his brother's out there gambling away the money as fast as he can. It's a really, really good Balzac novel. One of my absolute favorites. Anyway, there you go. There are my 11 recommendations for Framed in September. 11 books that center on art or artists. You know, if you've read any of these books, you have any thoughts about any of these books, please leave your comments in the comments section below. And as always, thank you for watching.